Defy everything, including your very own concept of season preview podcast episodes. Oh my God, it's the IndyCar preview of Motorsport 101. The Motorsport 101 IndyCar Series preview. Right, cool.
Nice and book standard intro there, as always, from RJ. Hey guys, how's it going? Dre Harrison back at it once again with a brand new episode of Motorsport 101 for you. I'm your friendly neighborhood host, and yeah, time for part 2 of our, shall we say, Motorsport season preview series. We had Formula E a couple of weeks ago. Amazingly, they've had 3 races since then. That's just how these things go. So, yeah, in this time, we're going to be talking IndyCar, which starts this weekend in St. Petersburg, and we have a lot to get through here because it is the most entries, I think I'm right in saying, Mr. RJ O'Connell, since before the split, I want to say.
That's correct. If you've read my introductory article for racefans.net this season, I counted 25 drivers that, good health willing, and if they don't get fired, will run the full season. And I went through every year since 2008 when the sport reunified, and that's the most that we've had since 2008 and 2012, where there were 24 aspiring full-time drivers.
Crazy stuff. Also with us, we have Ryan Eric King. Hello, sir.
Yeah, always glad to be here. Can't wait for the season to IndyCar. It's gonna be a big year.
But is it going to be bigger than Daytona, King?
I don't know. I gotta check in with my friends over at the Daytona Beach News Journal.
Remember the Maine! To hell with Spain! is what 24 other people are going to be thinking as they try and chase down Alex Below in the championship.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun time. And with me as well, Cam Buckley. Hello, sir.
Hello, everyone. Man, the Daytona 500 certainly set some kind of bar for the Indy 500 to meet this year. I don't know what kind of bar, but it certainly is one.
Yeah, it exists.
Hopefully we ruin less cars.
Hopefully. I think I'm right in saying, like, quick Daytona side note, 70% of the field was involved in some kind of wreck over the course of that race.
27 cars were involved in a crash at some point.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
They don't have to make the cars race like this. They don't, especially when we're already having a chassis shortage. That said, congratulations to NASCAR Cup Series rookie, second-time Daytona 500 starter, Austin Cindric, on winning the race for Penske. How about it? The flagship number 2 car finally wins the Daytona 500 after all these years. Brad Keselowski couldn't do it. He decided to just go. He decided he had the shot to win the race and then just went full Kobe Bryant and threw it right in the fucking garbage.
Well, I'm sure he and Chase Briscoe would have choice words on that finish. And on Roger's birthday as well.
Yeah, his 85th birthday.
Because,
Happy birthday,
man,
Captain.
Cindric put his teammate in the wall, and Blaney, if it was anyone else but Blaney, that would have come back to get Cindric. But Blaney wanted to see a Penske car win on Penske's birthday because I don't know how happy Roger would have been.
I'm still mad that Bubba lost out by half a car.
Bubba Wallace is the new super speedway specialist, right? He is the new Mr. Restrictor Plate. Wait, we can't call him Restrictor. He's the new Mr. Tapered Spacer. Forget Ricky Stenhouse. I'm sorry, Dale Jr., you've been away for the game too long. Bubba Wallace is the new... He could see the air. But we're not here to talk about NASCAR.
Yeah.
He who sitteth at the right hand of Rick Allen, to whom no reverence is given.
Indeed. So, let's get into the IndyCar season preview very, very shortly. We'll talk about the calendar, the new team, some of the new drivers. We have a very heaped rookie class to get into as well. Also, shout out to my man Jason who keeps stats on these things. Mentioned, apparently, according to him, it is my 300th appearance on this podcast, which is a terrifying thought for all involved. Thanks, you all, for having us in your homes, or wherever you may listen to us.
I don't
the fact
have
I've done 300 of these is terrifying.
I don't have any celebratory wreaths to give you, but I can give you some discarded bottles of flavored sparkling water. You need those.
Sweet. Send them in the mail. You love to see
Make
it.
a chair out of them.
Right.
You could celebrate by
300
playing
up.
Mario Kart after.
At 300 up, let's do this. So, places you can find us real quick. We're on youtube.com/motorsport101. We're on facebook.com/motorsport101. We're on Twitter at motorsport_101. If you'd like to follow our personal handles, you can. At Harrison101HD, at CBuckley917, Ryan Eric King, and at RJ O'Connell. You can follow us on our Instagram page at motorsport101pod, and you can find all of those details as well as our Patreon page at motorsport101.com. So, while I find 2 beers to crack to celebrate 300, let's get into our IndyCar season preview.
It is time. It's time already? It's only February. What the fuck?
Yeah, I know. It's weird talking about IndyCar in February. We're going to have a race in the books by the time we get to the end of February. But here we are. So, what we're going to do is we're going to go up and down the grid, and we'll have some choice words, some testing, some off-season notes, all of that fun stuff as we go team by team up the grid. And we start at the top of the list with Juncos Hollinger Racing. As I joke here, now with 100% more Carlin. Who knew? More on that in just a second. They're only running one car. It's the number 77. It's Callum Illot. He returns after a brief cameo appearance at Portland last year. He'll be in the 77 car. You may remember him as 2020's Formula 2 runner-up as well. So one of their big off-season notes was they've formed a new technical alliance with former Team Carlin, sadly no longer on the IndyCar grid as of now. So Richard Juncos and Brad Hollinger have entered a technical alliance with Team Carlin to combine their forces behind the end of the 77 car. Juncos bought out the remaining Carlin factory assets late last year, and the remaining members of the team have been absorbed for this season. I mean, gentlemen, I don't think the expectations are going to be too high here, but at least the driving talent's an exciting name, right?
Yeah, it's very... IndyCar always has a knack for being a place where forgotten Formula One prospects seem to thrive if they want it enough. And in the case of Callum Illot, he is 24 months removed from competing with Mick Schumacher for a Formula 2 title. Just months ago, he was still in the frame for Formula 1 drives. And then what a gift for Juncos Hollinger Racing, a team that, let's not forget, was functionally dead about a couple of years ago. They had no prospects of ever coming back to the IndyCar series. They had to lay off pretty much all of their staff before they came back at the tail end of last season. And they have a driver of Illot's talent fall into their lap. I don't want to put too high of an expectations on them because, again, this is a first-year team. This is made up of parts of a team that was still struggling to get things going back before they took their IndyCar hiatus, and a team in Carlin that just never could get out of the blocks. But I don't think the driving talent is going to be a huge issue, and I think Brad Hollinger's going to have some really good ideas for the team. We know Ricardo Juncos wants to see because he's been in this game long enough and made enough sacrifices to ensure that they will all want to make this work. We'll see.
Yeah, the driving talent's certainly not the problem here. I mean, Illot was really, really damn good in his limited appearances last year, albeit in a team that, no matter how you slice it, is a whole lot higher up the grid than the constituent parts of this team were. We call it a technical partnership. It's more that they absorbed the corpse of Carlin into the fold here because... Well, similar to Trackhouse and NASCAR, it's almost like 3 dead teams combined to rise again from the grave.
Oh, yeah, that's right. This also has Bird Hollinger Racing in it, too. I forgot about that.
So, kid, what do you make of this smoothie of Frankenstein's monster of an IndyCar team?
Oh, man. It'll certainly help that they'll be around all year. But I think echoing what you said, echoing what RJ said, where it's gonna pretty much be down to how much does Illot want it? How much effort is he willing to put in? Because Max Chilton wasn't willing to put in as much of an effort, and it showed.
Yeah,
I think COVID kind of really tanked Chilton's career. I think at some point during the pandemic, it was just like, this is not for me, but I'm in too deep so far. And he just pulled the ripcord and decided, I'm going to Le Mans. I know, Illot would much rather be in Formula One at this stage of the game, but keep in mind, Alexander Rossi was also in the same boat when he got offered a lifeline at what was then an Andretti Herta car, and that he won the Indianapolis 500, and he's pretty much here to stay. And for his career to be examined under a microscope as he goes into yet another losing season.
Yeah, I was going to say, the only issue I thought with this team was going to be, well, besides, the limitations of where they are in the grid and obviously the technical alliance and all of that, is Illot's never seemed to be the sort of guy that genuinely wanted to be here. And I can understand that to a degree. He had big. I don't want to make that assumption. I feel like Alexander Rossi should have taught us better not to just assume what everybody's motivations are. But I'm cynical like that, so you're never going to convince me otherwise on that, because he literally called the series a stepping stone when he first rolled up. So what do you want me to tell you? It's one of those things where Illot has spoken out on social media before about how he's he really wants to be in F1, and this is almost like a plan B. But that's how it goes, and so whether he wants it, we'll have to wait and see. It's always going to be hard to assess, and it's going to be hard to us because he's in a back market team on paper. But hey, we'll see. The talent has always been there with Callum, though. Now, AJ Foyt Enterprises, everybody's favourite shithousery right here, folks. Yeah, they've expanded. They're running 3 cars next season. This is going to be fun. Dalton Kellett returns in the number 4 car. Excuse
me. I do need to put a point. That is reigning Motorsport 101 participation trophy holder Dalton Kellett.
Yes, he's just happy to be here. The 23rd, and yes, if you're keeping score at home, the worst of the full-time runners last season in the number 4 car. But we also have in the 14 car, the one, the only, King Kyle Kirkwood, everybody. He's here, the reigning Indy Lights champion. Man, we've spoken very extensively about on this network. You can check that out on YouTube if you haven't already. It was a fun time. He'll be in the number 14 car, and we have an 11 car too. And we've got Tatiana Calderon coming over as well. She'll be running all of the road and street races. In 2022, that car will be split over the ovals, heavily rumoured to be J.R. Hildebrand for the oval rounds, not quite confirmed yet, but strong rumours suggest it will be J.R. Hildebrand taking the ovals in the 11 car on a split schedule. So not really full-time, but you get the gist. The car points will count anyway. So, yeah, there's one obvious thing to point out about this, and that's obviously the surprise acquisition, I should say, of Kyle Kirkwood. As you may or may not know, due to Andretti being unable to incorporate him after their attempt at an F1 deal collapsed, Indy Lights champ Kyle Kirkwood was snatched up by AJ Foyt, and the 23-year-old American feels less pressure on himself, apparently, due to Foyt's current struggles. He said in an interview with Motorsport.com, he said, quote, it does take pressure off me, yeah. At the same time, I think it's beneficial for me because, like I've said, the team has been super open with me. They want to learn too. I've been able to bring some kind of experience over from my history and hone in and try to get something out of our car here. I think we're going to grow together as a team. I think the chemistry has been working out perfectly. The thing that jumped off the page to this one, fellas, is that AJ Foyt and his team is apparently learning off a 23-year-old rookie that's never raced in his cars before. Just thought I'd throw that one out there.
Yeah, that's a weird thing to say, where it definitely feels like this team is... Like, it feels weird to use the term rebuild, because normally when you say rebuild, there are gonna be a couple seasons where it's gonna be real rough.
It's been in a perpetual rebuild since the kart teams came back to the Indy Racing League.
Yeah, and it feels like that, they got a major sponsor. They have Rocket, and they got Tatiana Calderon, who's had Rocket backing, before this point. Mm-hmm. And 3 cars, it's a lot of it's a lot of opportunities to get mileage, to get applicable data to improve your running with 3 cars. This feels like, again, a rebuild. And it's like, how competitive will they be this year? Don't know. But hopefully they'll be better next year.
The thing with like any rebuild is you need to have, a future elite caliber athlete to be the focal point of that rebuild. You're not going to get much better prospects than the driver who's won more races at all the rungs of the road to Indy than any other driver in the history of the series. If you can't make it work with Kyle Kirkwood, I don't know who else out there you're going to get.
Yeah, Kyle Kirkwood has the most glittering junior record of anyone in the American motorsports ladder that I can remember.
And on paper, this makes sense to have Hildebrand for the ovals because he has a lot of experience on that front. It would just be real nice to have at least one more experienced driver for at least the road and street courses to just try to get some veteran knowledge, coming in.
I raised the point with AJ Foyt. They have had piles upon piles of hyped talent and experienced talent in and out of this team.
Yeah, it was 5 years ago. Carlos Munoz coming off another strong performance of the Indy 500 and Conor Daly in the team, and they couldn't make that work.
And what did they do with it? What did they do with it?
They did nothing with it. They have not won a race since Takuma Sato at Long Beach in 2013.
Oh. Back when Takuma Sato was just the guy who crashed every other weekend in IndyCar. And was not entirely undeserved for that reputation, at least under the old IR05/IR08. Yeah. I don't know. It's Foyt. It's always Foyt.
It's always Foyt, and I'll be real with you. If you're expecting Kyle Kirkwood to do the heavy lifting for your team as a rookie, as a team that has struggled for the last decade plus, you've got fundamental problems with your team.
Yeah,
right?
And even when they had experience, let's not forget, Tony Kanaan was a full-time runner with this team not too long ago, and they still weren't that much better with him.
Ask Sebastian Bourdais.
Yeah. They've had great talent in... the talent is not an excuse. They've had excellent drivers in their seats the last decade. It's amounted to nothing. So, hey... Okay, build it around the rookie and see what happens, sure. Okay, but I think that's an unfair level of expectation to expect from Kirkwood, even if he's an S-tier prospect in the context of the American ladder. I don't like that mix. It worries me. Curse you, Andretti, for not being able to fulfill this man. I think they've done better personally, but we'll have to wait and see how Foyt goes.
Before we move on from Foyt, I did want to say that Tatiana Calderon's road and street schedule will mean that she'll be the woman who's run the most races in a season since Simona De Silvestro in 2013. So it's been a whole 10 years since we've had a woman run most of an IndyCar schedule.
Yep.
Sigh. Deep sigh. To say the least.
Similarly god-awful team.
Dale Coyne. Now, this is a team that I like where this team is. It's like that Top Gear meme of Clarkson and the Kia. It's just like, this is excellent. I like this. Because for Dale Coyne this year, in the number 18, we have David Malukas as a rookie. He's only 19 years old, but he was runner-up in that Indy Light season last year behind Kyle Kirkwood. And joining him in the number 51 car in collaboration with Rick Ware Racing is Takuma Sato. Hey, we just mentioned him. Takuma's back again. Hello, buddy. And yes, in case you didn't spot it, Dale Coyne is gushing over being able to bring in David Malukas. He's in full time for the year as well. And yeah, here's a fun quote for you. Quote, I've been following David in Indy Lights and I was very pleased by what I saw. He had a remarkable season and then he impressed everyone when we tested him back in October. It was his first time in an Indy car and he was the fastest one at the test, even ahead of a veteran driver. And on top of it all, he comes right down the road in Chicago, so it's a perfect fit for us to run David next season. There's excitement in the air at Dale Coyne, and I can see why. Like, I really like this fit, King. Have you noticed this too?
Yeah, it's like Foyt, but better. It's
Foyt, but there's experience there.
It's the rebuild that we know is gonna pan out.
I mean, look, David Malukas, for all credit to him, was not that far behind Kirkwood in Indy Lights last year. I know people got very excited about Kirkwood, understandably so, but Malukas did run him pretty close last year. He's 4 years younger, right? And we've seen what this team can do with very smart collaborations in the past, and they've had an excellent track record with new drivers coming into the series. You know, some guy called Alex Palou made his debut here just about, a year or change ago.
Yeah, that's the key difference here, where all the concerns we have about Foyt and their rebuild, Coyne addresses without any issue. They've shown in the past they can perform with, lesser resources in the big teams. They have a veteran driver that Malukas can learn alongside and can provide engineers, all the information they need to improve.
I think the businesses alliance that Coyne have done, this 18 car is effectively the old Vassar Sullivan car. It's not Vassar Sullivan anymore. It's HMD Motorsports. It's Henry Malukas, David's dad's company. So yes, he is a bit of a boss's son, but he's a really good boss's son. And I think probably the one driver in this rookie class I think a lot of people are sleeping on because, Kirkwood's Indy Lights champion. Devlin Defrancesco's buddies with Fernando Alonso and Mike Tyson. Okay, Lundgard and Illot come over from Europe. But Malukas is the guy they're all sleeping on. I don't know when Takuma Sato's going to hit the cliff, but I don't want to even think about it. As long as Takuma Sato's out here having fun and running races every day, I'm here for it.
Two-time Indy 500 champion.
I was going to say, Sato gives you an automatic 500 shot, which is what we're all here for, let's be honest. And having that bullet in the chamber is a very nice weapon to have, because we know Takuma is one of the better 500 runners in recent history. And like I said, Malukas brings over a ton of resources from HMD, and he's ridiculously talented. There's a lot to like about this Coyne setup. There's a lot to like. A lot of collaborations, smartly run business, smartly run race team, and a lot of exciting talent. I mean, okay, Takuma's in his mid-40s now, but he's still a damn solid driver for a team at that level. So, I think there's a lot to like, and it would not surprise me at all if Malukas was Rookie of the Year by the time it's all said and done.
Ooh, is that our first bold pick of the weekend? Is that our first bold pick of the show?
I think it is. I may or may not have said it during an Astray video back in January, but I did say I think a lot of people have slept on David Malukas over the course of the last off-season or so. I think a lot of people are either looking at the European prospects or we're looking at Kirkwood. I think a lot of people missed Malukas, and I think that's going to come back to bite some people once this season actually starts. Don't let me down, David. I've got a lot of faith in you, buddy. I know our Discord does too. Hopefully positive signs ahead for Coyne, and we like them a lot here right now. Another one. Let's go to Ed Carpenter Racing. Always a fun time with Uncle Ed, Oval Master himself.
Space Cadet Ed.
Space Guardian Ed, but he will not be in the car this year outside of the 500, which is looking like it's going to be a third entry, not confirmed yet. I checked his website for this. They're looking for funding for the 500 to run a third car, but Ed has actually stepped aside from the ovals in the number 20 car. Conor Daly will get that seat full time this season. So Conor finally gets a full-time seat for the first time since 2017, as you do. And he will be alongside, again, the very highly talented and very highly rated Rinus VK in the 21 seat, who became one of IndyCar's youngest ever winners last year, Indianapolis's road course. So, a big change in the guard at Ed Carpenter Racing as the owner himself steps back from the 20 car to let Conor take his seat full time. Daly was just delighted to have a sense of stability at ECR again, saying, quote, "To be able to come back to Ed Carpenter Racing for the full season is incredible. I haven't had the chance to be with one team for the entire year since 2017, so this is something I'm very, very thankful for. I have a lot of faith in ECR, and each year we continue to get better together. Shout out to Conor. He was able to talk some Bitcoin dudes into getting the funding for a seat, so, fair play to him.
I just hope they paid up front.
Good luck to him. But, I mean, this is an interesting team. Like, Daly, it's weird even describing Daly as a veteran because he just turned 30 this past off season, which made me feel really, really old in and of itself. But we all know all eyes are going to be on Rinus VeeKay and what he can bring to the table second full year in. I mean, is that the vibe we're getting here?
Rinus VeeKay said that his season did not fall apart last year because of his broken collarbone that he suffered in a training accident before Road America. And I take it, I don't think his fitness was the problem, but damn, the correlation between his training injury and them just falling off the cliff with whatever setup issues they were having, that's stark, because you kind of lose sight of the fact that Rinus VeeKay was one of the stars of the entire month of May. He won the Grand Prix. Mm-hmm. He led a lot of the 500. Things were looking good. I had to talk my editor-in-chief into saying, like, hey, it's not just a big three of talented young drivers that are at the forefront with Pato O'Ward and Pelot. It's you should put VeeKay in that discussion because he is on that caliber, especially when he's going on all cylinders.
Yeah, and I think that's, a bit down to, I wouldn't say IndyCar really has any backmarker teams. I'd say there's a front half and a back half. And right now, based on the teams we went through, and even with this lineup, the quote-unquote back half teams are looking really competitive.
Oh, yeah.
And it's gonna be a rough fight for all the rookies, especially against the more established young drivers, where I don't think VeeKay or Daly are gonna hold any quarter to Malukas or Kirkwood out there on track.
I think
sorry to cut you real quick. Sorry to cut you, Cam, just a second here. But yeah, I was gonna say, there are literally dudes that are double VeeKay's age in the same sort of performance bracket that they're at right now. We'll get to them very briefly, but one of the drivers in that team that's mentioned next on the list is literally old enough to be Rinus's dad at this point, comfortably. So, it's going to be a hard time for Rinus if that team performs up to standard. Yeah, go on, Cam.
I would say one of the things about ECR is that depending on which weekend we're in, we don't know whether they're going to be a front half or a back half team because their ceiling seems to fluctuate throughout the year. At the Indy 500, they're always a threat for pole in the modern age, and they were the only Chevrolet team worth a damn in qualifying last year.
They were the only consistent threat out of the Chevrolet stable to have a chance to win, and I think that also is why, Conor Daly got this full-time ride as a reward, not only for putting in a lot of work in the piecemeal deals that he had in 2021, but also it was the Indianapolis 500. Indiana had a new local sun that they could gravitate behind, because we don't know how long Ed Carpenter's going to be chasing this white whale of being a hometown Indy 500 winner, but Conor Daly could still do it. But I don't know if it doesn't work out, I don't know how many more chances he's going to get. This is
the good thing is he owns
deal.
The team. So as long as he has sponsorship, he can keep doing this for as long as he wants.
Yeah.
I know Carpenter, he'll do it as long as he wants. I'm just thinking, for Conor Daly, this is the best thing that's happened to him in a long time. And also, it could be his last shot at a full-time ride if it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Then
it's a lot. It's a very thin margin game, and RJ made a fantastic point. Daly was superb at the 500 last year. He led several laps of that race, and the old meme of bad luck Conor came to strike when he was hit by Rahal's stray tire, which did his day in. Which just when you think Daly's finally had a good run at one of these things, that happened. We all know they're a very strong 500 team. Rinus, I think, is an excellent talent. again, lot to like out of this camp. I'm curious to see what Daly does with a full season, again, for the first time in a good half decade, because the last time he had one of them, it was with Foyt. And, well, you know that one worked out, to say the least. Speaking of the other end of the experience scale, we talked about Rinus VeeKay. Let's talk a little bit about Meyers Shank Racing. And,
your Daytona 24-hour winners.
Yes, Rolexes and rings for days here. In the 06, Helio is back for the full season this time at the tender age of 46. He's taken the full season. We all know him as the man that climbed the fence again last year when he became a member of the 4-500 wins club. And of course, as Arkham alluded to, won at Daytona a month ago as well. So, yeah, in good form at the moment, Helio, to say the least. But they made a big name acquisition as well. They have brought in a second car in the number 60. Some guy called Simon Pagenaud, Cam. I think you like him. I think he's yes. Joining the Strawberry Nesquik Society is Simon Pagenaud in the number 60 car, and Helio was gassed when he found out about this news. Quote, "We feel having Simon now with the team, which is going to be a great teammate as well, working together to understand what we need, that's probably going to put us on that next level. Simon is an amazing talent. He looks for small details. I really like it. He understands the team process, working as a teammate. We're hopefully carrying that over to MSR, which is not only going to help us, me and Simon, but help the team to elevate." And that seems to be the running pattern of all the PR quotes and interviews I've seen with this team going into this season. Elevation. This is a team that wants to be taken seriously at the very highest level.
It's like, if elevation, like, their rise has been meteoric, and that's an understatement. Like, we had one of the first interviews when they announced that they were going to be a part-time team with Jack Harvey, and just in a matter of just a couple years, they're a multi-car, full-time team and the reigning Indianapolis 500 champion.
See, if you had a Indy 500 death lineup of the modern age, the guy who's won 4 of them and the guy who carried the entirety of the Penske empire on his back for the last 3 years is not a bad setup to have.
Oh, yeah, by the way, they still have that Andretti Autosport technical alliance. And by the way, I love that this is like, it's sunset in New York, so King has given us these prime golden hour images in through the window here. That's great.
Let me change my, let me move around in my rooms. Oh, wait, I don't get light in my room.
I am fascinated by MSR going all in on experience, because we know that Simon Pagenaud is not that far removed from competing for championships. Helio Castroneves did win the Indianapolis 500. He's got plenty of those. He could become the most successful driver in Indy 500 history. Do we think going in, because he turns 47 in May, and a series title is the only thing that he didn't win. Do we think he's got a realistic shot at it?
Why not?
If, okay. All right. If they can carry last year's 500 for him to this year, that's double points in the bank.
It's true. But the thing is, I'm not sure how good Helio is over a full season. That's my only concern here. I have every faith in Simon Pagenaud, and I'm inclined to give him the benefit of the doubt because he was not the only struggling Penske of last year, right? I've got little to be worried about with Simon. Helio over a full season at his age, I'm not sure. Like, the 500...
I don't know. People have the same doubts about Montoya when he came back, and he won a championship at
Also,
Penske.
another counterpoint. Now, both of these guys won the 24 Hours of Daytona this year. They were in the same car with the same team. Helio Castroneves also won the IMSA championship 2 years ago when Penske kind of ushered him out the door a little bit of IndyCar.
Yeah. I mean, his last full seasons, he was always competitive. He was top 5 in the championship his last 6 full-time seasons. He came so close without actually winning the title. But 2017 and 2022 are 5 years ago, folks. I would love to see Helio at least give it one more decent run at a championship. You know what I mean? I don't know if he's going to do it, but I'd love to see it happen.
To be fair, who wouldn't want to see it happen? Because who doesn't like Helio Castroneves? He's just great. He's just a great asset for IndyCar in general. He's one of the true characters of this sport. I don't think there'd be a dry eye in the house if Helio finally won the big one. You know, a series, like the perfect, cherry on top of a legendary career. And even if it doesn't, Simon Pagenaud's a hell of a plan B, quite frankly. So there's, again, it's the other end of the scale compared to some of the other, shall we say, back half teams, as King quite eloquently put it. They've gone the other way with this, but if you're going for experience, it doesn't get much better than those two.
Last three teams we've talked about a whole lot of Indy 500 excellence over the last 3 years.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Takuma, Daly and VK's been up there. Helio, arguably the GOAT of the 500.
Don't sleep on Hildebrand at Foyt either. If he gets that oval drive, no. Yeah, I know the one race that he didn't win, a pretty high profile one, but he won
perhaps the most famous non-win of modern racing history.
But of course, under the radar, he was Foyt's highest finishing driver at the 500 last year, for whatever that's worth. Dre, I want to talk about the schedule.
Yes.
Because if you did not know, it's here, like throwing up after a long night of drinking. You were hungover, and you've just got to wake up at 6:30 and spell that out of you. IndyCar's here, February 27th at St. Petersburg. Now, because travel restrictions have been eased this year, we're going back to Exhibition Place, Toronto.
Yes, though. TV broadcasters hedging their bets. The race in Toronto will be the only one available exclusively on Peacock.
And the Americans groan in unison.
Just in case anything were to happen.
You never know. Could be a new variant. We've been here before. Yeah. Pandemic, of course, will always be a big old asterisk.
Yeah, but we do have St. Pete back in the start of the year. Long Beach back towards the start of the year. We have Texas. It's the second race of the year, and we know, like, the IndyCar guys that are also double dipping in IMSA are not happy about that clash of dates with Sebring. But it is just going to be a single race. And the Detroit Grand Prix, the last on the streets of Belle Isle, is going to be a single header as well. So we have St. Petersburg, Texas on March 20th, Long Beach on April 10th, Barber Motorsports Park in Alabama on the 1st of May. Then we get to the month of May, Indy Grand Prix on May 14th, then it's straight into time trials, then the Indy 500 on May 25th, then Detroit, and we got Road America on June 12th, Mid-Ohio on July 3rd, Toronto on July 17th, fingers crossed. We're coming back to Iowa Speedway for a double on July 23rd and 24th, and we're coming back to Indy on the road course for the Brickyard weekend on July 30th. The streets of Nashville are back on August 7th. Then it's back to Gateway on August 20th. Portland on September 4th. And Laguna Seca on the 11th of September. 17 race calendar. It's looking real good.
Looking really good.
Yeah, there's a lot to like about this calendar. I mean, it's going to be relentlessly fast paced in the back half of the year as well. I like Indy Road Course getting 2 races. I like the fact it doubles up with NASCAR now that weekend as well. That's fun to get through. I mean, I'm okay with Detroit being 1 race. I'm okay with Texas only being 1 race after what happened last year. It's good to be back in Toronto. We've got much more guys taking part in the Indy Oval races as well, which is always good. Less part-timers and, more guys committing to the schedule, which is always promising. There's a lot to like here. And we get to race over a bridge again on August 7th, because they never mentioned that enough. We got the bridge back in Nashville. Isn't that lovely? Can't be any more chaos than last year. So that is your 2022 IndyCar schedule.
I really enjoy this calendar. Probably my only complaint would be, hey, maybe ditch one of the Indy road course races for a race at a new oval.
New oval? I would like to see the IndyCar calendar. Madness.
I would like to see another oval race somewhere. That is my that's my only real drawback. They are still
find a
skimping on
1
ovals.
mile flat oval that hasn't been torn to shit to fit NASCAR like Phoenix was. Isn't in somebody else's market like the Milwaukee Mile is. You're going to have to just build a new oval if you want something else on the calendar.
Well, they're thinking about tearing down the old Lakefront Airport in Cleveland. Might as well build something new.
Times in Cleveland again?
Still Cleveland.
Welcome back to Cleveland Town, everyone. So, let's get into what we consider the front half of the field, some of the bigger hitters on paper. Let's start up with that highly popular livery team, the Arrow McLaren SP guys. Safe to say, they split the room on launch night. In the number 5 car, the man that finished 3rd in the championship last year, one of the most exciting talents in global motorsport right now, Pato O'Ward, fronting the Arrow McLaren SP team. And in the number 7 car, making his return, Felix Rosenqvist as well. Again, a tale of 2 seasons last year. Pato O'Ward, 3rd. Felix, 21st. Totally normal. But there was a concern for me when I was thinking about this team this year, and that was, I think Pato really has, well, I say one eye on F1. What I really mean is both eyes, both hands, and he's probably in midair jumping at the opportunity to want to get into F1. Because he's been very open in talking about that, and Zach had to basically slap his wrist and say, "No, Pato, no." He said basically, quote, "That's exactly what I told him. The quickest way to F1 is to go and do what Montoya or Villeneuve did, go win an IndyCar. But that's going to be your best chance of getting into F1. He's unbelievably talented. He's a great personality. I think he's got what it takes from a raw talent point of view to be a Formula One driver. I think his timeline is about right." The timeline that Zach was referring to was Pato last year saying, "Look, if I want to be in F1, I've got 2 years to do it." And this is year 1 of that 2-year plan. Although it is funny that this is coming from Zach Brown, a man who has tied down both his Formula One drivers to 3-year extensions. So, in other words, Zach, are you saying if he wants to be an F1 driver, he's going to have to go somewhere else?
No, I'm just saying, one of the two, not saying who, might get shifted off to another McLaren program.
Just throwing it out there, maybe, possibly, Gentlemen, it's hard not to gush over Pato O'Ward here. I mean, he's just a supreme talent, and it just has. He's not been. Oh God, yeah. But he's just not quite put that full title campaign together just yet. He's a little bit short, but you can't not talk about him as a title contender at this point, right?
Absolutely not. Not after last year, and not when you consider that this is what McLaren's investing into. They are not coming in with the idea of, we want to be a plucky upper midfield team. That's not what McLaren invested in an IndyCar team to do. And they now have the majority share. This is less Schmidt-Peterson. This is more McLaren. And that's going to come with a weight of expectations. And I think Patricio O'Ward can meet those expectations. I want to touch a little bit about Felix Rosenqvist, because this is kind of a make-or-break year. But he is getting some help, because there's a gentleman by the name of Craig Hampson who is moving to be his race engineer. Here are some of the drivers that Craig Hampson has worked for. Sebastian Bourdais, 31 race wins, 4 straight Champ Car World Series titles. James Hinchcliffe, 2011 IndyCar Rookie of the Year. Dale Coyne Racing made miracles happen out of that team. So he's going to get some help trying to turn whatever the hell went wrong around this season.
They threw the entire house behind Pato and put Rosenqvist on the same setups with a completely opposite driving style.
Yeah.
And you saw how that basically played out.
Yeah, it's got to work. It can't, surely it cannot go. Felix Rosenqvist is too good to struggle again like this.
It's tough when you're at the front and basically fighting alone against, in the case of last year, 3 Ganassi cars on a given weekend. You need to have a rear gunner.
Like, I think, for the most part, like, it's clear when you look at the other 4 drivers who finished in the top 5 of the championship. They're all 3-car teams or more. And it's an issue when, it's gonna become less of an issue as, you know, the IndyCar season gets more and more rounds and rounds at differing tracks, and we stop returning to venues repeatedly over the season, where, getting data is important. That's one aspect of it. But in terms of a championship fight, when you have a bad day and you're picking up minor points finishes, you want teammates high in the field to take points away from your title rivals. And, just adding one more car would not only help O'Ward's hopes at winning a championship, but it would also help Rosenquist out and get the team more data and figure out what will work with Felix.
Yeah, they're getting a 3rd car for the month of May. Montoya will be returning for that, but it's pretty much an open secret at this point they're going to have 3 cars in 2023. They've openly flirted with tests for Nico Hulkenberg and King's beloved Stoffel season, Mr. Van Dorn as well. So it's pretty much an open secret at this point. They're going to run a 3rd car next year. And that's going to be for the whole season. So McLaren are not taking their foot off the gas pedal. They want everything they can get in IndyCar for the sake of it. And they're building it around Pato O'Ward. And maybe just taking a step back and being a more balanced team going forward with Felix would certainly put them in the right stead. We know Pato is good. You can compromise with Pato to a degree because he's such a brilliant talent. Get Felix into play, because we saw him in the number 10 car at Chip. He was superb that season. He was keeping Dixon honest on many occasions. We know what Felix can do in IndyCar. It's certainly a lot better than he was at McLaren last year. At least that's how I look at it anyway. So, yeah, again, a lot to be excited about there. Probably more of a 2023 long game, especially if Pato is motivated and he wants that F1 seat, because that's going to be interesting. Although, yes, I would love to see Pato in an F1 car too, because my God, he's a charismatic son of a bitch.
Yeah.
I like that guy.
Everybody loves talking to this
I like
dude.
him a lot.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Love him.
Yeah, great guy. We like him a lot on M101, and yeah, he'd be an instant charisma boost to any series he would race in. Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing, and for the first time in 15 years, they are running 3 cars full time this season. Anybody like multiples of 15? Because in the 15 we have Graham Rahal returning. You know him, you love him. Number 45, they've brought in Jack Harvey. We love him here on the show. Mr. You Don't Know Jack himself. That's a great acquisition. I do like that a lot. And in the number 30 car, Christian Lundgard making his full-time season debut after finishing 12th in Formula 2 last year. The curse of the second ART ringing high in Formula 2 again. Has forced Lundgard to go stateside. And yeah, like a chat with Jack Harvey, he's very excited about this, saying, quote, "This was a dream move. I've been working towards this moment for my entire career, and I'm so honoured and thankful for the trust Bobby, Mike, David and Piers have placed in me. We have common goals of competing for wins and championships, and I'm confident we'll be contending from the drop of the green flag next year. This is an exciting next chapter, and I can't wait to see what lies ahead." This is an interesting team, fellas. I mean, I want to say it's a bit of an unproven lineup besides Rahal. We know Rahal is very good. I wouldn't say he's exceptional, not like he was when he was challenging for the title a few years back, but on paper, if this all goes to plan, this is a nasty team. Like,
yeah, where we have, it feels weird to say, because at one point he was the youngest race winner in this category. Graham Rahal as one of the most experienced drivers in the field, with Jack Harvey, obviously promising young prospect, done amazing things at Meyers Shank Racing, and you have Christian Lundgard, exciting driver in Formula 2. He's clearly skilled. It's certainly planning for the future while trying to get maybe that title push to maybe give Graham an outside chance at winning the championship.
Forget last year. This team was everything was going to plan, and they ended up on what ended up being the right strategy to win the Indy 500. Problem is, a finger trouble crept in and stopped that right in its tracks.
Kramer Hall hasn't won a race in a long, long time. It's been, what, like 5 years?
How?
Not for lack of trying.
Yeah.
Not for lack of trying or lack of confidence either, but Graham's got to get back to start winning races. I think he's probably got the most pressure on him to perform.
Well, he's the team leader of a massive free car expansion. His name is on the side of the car, and we know he's been better than what... It's not like he's been bad the last 2 or 3 years, but we know he's been better than what he is right now. And that's part of the problem. It wasn't that long ago. He was the best Honda driver in this entire field, and that wasn't that long ago. So
I don't know. That was 2015,
admittedly,
which was a while ago.
Admittedly, outside the, big 3 teams, the only driver who finished higher than him in the standings was Pato.
Indeed. Yeah. You can't ask for much more from a team at that level, but this is a team that wants more than that. And with that comes heightened expectations. I have question marks about... Rahal is good. He's still clearly very good. He's very consistent, and that's always a good... Having a high floor is always good. Does he still have that ceiling of some of the more elite names we're going to be getting to very soon? That's the question mark that I've got. I like the other guys they've brought in.
Yeah.
Like Jack Harvey is a miracle worker at MSR.
Jack Harvey elevated Meyers Shanks. Helio Castroneves will, of course, get the credit because he's the one that got them the win in the Indianapolis 500, but that doesn't happen without the work that they and Jack Harvey did together over the years preceding that. And it's going to be a win-win move because Meyers Shank are in a better place now after his departure, and Jack Harvey is in a better place now, being at Rahal Letterman, which does have a bit more experience under them. And my God, it wasn't all that long ago that we were saying Christian Lundgard was the most slept-on prospect in the Alpine Academy. He led a small chunk of his one IndyCar race at the Brickyard Grand Prix last year, and I think that did enough to win him the job over any number of qualified candidates who would have loved to have that. A guy like Oliver Askew or Santino Ferrucci would have loved to have that seat, but it goes to Lundgard, who is much better than his Formula 2 CV shows.
Absolutely.
Agreed. Yeah, lots of that RLL setup. Again, I think it's one of those things where there's a few question marks there, but if it all falls into place, look out. That's a dangerous team.
Time for Big Three.
Into the Big Three, and we start with Andretti Autosport. And yes, they are back with 4 cars, all in numerical order, because isn't that just neat and tidy? In the 26 car returning, Colton Herta. Missed the 5th in the championship last year. In the 27, Alex Rossi, perennial top contender under normal circumstances. Wait, that's not Ryan Hunter-Reay in the yellow car. That's Romain Grosjean. I don't know how I feel about this, but here he is. He's in the DHL 28 car. And in the 29 car, Devlin Defrancesco was a rookie.
Favorite driver.
Indy lights last year. King's iRacing buddy. There's been some talk of rumblings between some of these dudes in the Andretti setup. I mean, Alex Rossi spoke about it quite a lot, but he's apparently relishing the prospect of going head-to-head with Colton Herta this year. So, quote, Colton and I are great together. He's become one of my good friends, honestly, and I love working with him, and he pushes me to be a better driver. I think there's a lot of internal competition, certainly in the team. In terms of driving the team forward, there's competition between the 2 engineering departments on both cars as well. It certainly is a big factor in terms of elevating the team, and I think that there's all the potential in the world for that to expand to potentially 3 cars in the organisation this year, which would be exciting for all of us. Can I just say on the record, I don't believe him for a minute.
Well, I believe him solely on the basis that, for the most part, Andretti has been fairly disappointing across the board. So, an improvement for one car is pretty much an improvement for all the cars.
Other than Colton Herta, last year this team were legitimate backmarkers.
Yeah, they were rough. It was rough last year. Look, I'm not going to talk too much about Colton Herta. we've gushed about him on this show, especially towards the end of last year. He is an exceptional all-round talent. You know, a guy that I'd even go as far as to say might be favourite for the championship. He's that good. If you said to me, I think Herta will win the title, I wouldn't laugh at you. Let's put it to you that way. I think there's absolutely a viable argument you can make. I have concerns about Alex Rossi, because he's had 2 or 3 years where he's not been the title terrible, challenger. That
no good, and very bad.
Yeah, it's... By his standards, he's dropped off a cliff in the last 2 years. And it looks like Herta is now the spiritual leader of this team, especially with the F1 talk that came around Andretti twice over the last, 6 months or so. I am curious to see what Rossi does this year, because if you really want to get back up the field again, you need Rossi on point. Like, Herta can't do it alone, in a very similar vein, I think, to what we've seen with McLaren, with Pato O'Ward, for example. RJ, what do you make of it? I think it's a very interesting dynamic in that Andretti driver lineup this year.
There's going to be a lot of expectation on Romain Grosjean in the 28 car, because last year was one of those situations where you get an experienced hand coming over from Formula One after he's already done everything in his career, bar winning a race, and it works out. Because not every time it does, but it worked out this time. It worked out well enough that he goes in to a seat where he's being hyped as a championship contender. I think it's going to be very, very fascinating to see how he fares in that, because he's in a good platform. I think Andretti Autosport's problem is that they just have not been able to get the most out of what they can bring to the table. I mean, bless them. Ryan Hunter-Reay and James Hinchcliffe look like they aged 50 years overnight going into these last couple years. Alexander Rossi has not... I don't think Rossi is struggling with the aero screen, but it is kind of coincidental with the
last year, the only 2 things I remember from Alex Rossi's season were being competitive at the 500 and then being caught in the same fuel situation as Dixon. Instantly ended his race as far as a competition for the win. And then looking like his old self in Laguna Seca until he crashed.
Yeah. Those are the highlights of Rossi's season.
This is out of friend of the show Remy Connors' living room. This is Alexander Rossi's Indianapolis 500 milk bottle. This wasn't that long ago. I know 2016 was longer ago than 2017, but there's still vivid memories of that. He's got the talent, and he's got the incentive to want to do better.
He's got to
piece it all together.
He's got to show it. I don't think I really have any more to add as far as Grosjean, except as far as the platform, I don't know, because Andretti just haven't been good the last couple of years, except for Colton. And
they feel stretched.
It feels like I've made this point in the past, and I'll expand on that. It feels like 4 cars is too many for them, because they can only have like 1 car be good at a given weekend. Usually Colton Herta.
Yeah, because it really feels like the team, well, I don't work there, don't obviously know how it is, but from the outside in, it's looking like they're really rallying around Herta, and it's seemingly to the detriment of the other cars.
You can't run a 4. You can't rock up with a 4-car team and not mean it. Especially when you've got talent like Alexander Rossi and Romain Grosjean, who was superb last year. People typically don't come into the series and just be competitive from the outset. And Devlin Defrancesco, who, despite our notions on him as a driver from certain iRacing events, is pretty damn solid.
He's solid. I don't think he got the most out of his 1 year in Indy Lights than he probably could have, given the expectations and giving the backing that he has. But if he can consistently put up top 10s in the car, which is something Hinchcliffe struggled to do last season, driving Hertz, I think that will meet expectations.
I think they need to have...
Oh, yeah. And by the way, in case you need another wrinkle, there's this whole thing about Mario Andretti letting the cat out of the bag, saying that Andretti's got plans to enter F1 as a standalone team. So this all ought to be fun.
And Alpine jumping right on. That's like, hey, we'll supply you. Please. Someone take our power units. I mean, just looking at their last year results, given the potential of this team and the driving talent present within this team, they've got to put more drivers in the top 10 of this year's championship. They have to.
Hey, Rossi's got a new strategist this year. He's a familiar face. Ran a team recently. You might know him as former IndyCar race director Brian Barnhart.
Oh God, he's gonna be out of the sport. Oh, can we just move?
An out of form Alex Rossi and Brian Barnhart working together. This is either going to go really well or really terribly, and I'm not sure which. That's going to be fascinating to keep an eye on. And yeah, that's not even talking about their F1 potential expansion, because good lord, that's a messy one as well. Team Penske.
Speaking of wasted
the
potential,
Imperial March music.
The
And then we got the Imperial March music in the background.
Yeah. Cam has gone completely dark for this to mourn the loss of Penske's competitive form at the Indianapolis 500.
What are you talking about? My man's in pink now. Yeah.
Find your light while I run down this team. They've downsized to 3 cars first and foremost again, and they've got, number 2, Joseph Newgarden, championship runner-up last year. Again, probably about as surefire a thing in IndyCar as it gets at this point with Newgarden. Scott McLaughlin in the number 3 car again, last year's Rookie of the Year, and Will Power in the number 12 car. And one of the big things that stuck out like a sore thumb last year, as alluded to, was their 500 pace. And Newgarden spoke pretty openly about it, saying that there wasn't a single outright cause, but it did add up, saying, quote, with Indianapolis, we had to look at everything, and hopefully it turns out to be 10 to 20 little things we found. 10 to 20. We put all those together and it makes a difference for us. I think we have found good things to put forward. We'll just have to wait and see if it's enough, he said. We're going to keep working till we get to race day. Oh boy.
Here's the thing, Skip. There's not just the 500 last year. Joseph Newgarden, if you could count off how many awful things that Penske did across the season, Joseph Newgarden would have wrapped up the championship like 3 races in advance.
Yeah.
Operationally, they have been a mess.
Yeah. Very unlike their normal selves. And it has held back, because I think Newgarden could have easily won the last 2 championships, but didn't on either occasion, and was in the mix to do so on both occasions. He is, for me, arguably the best pound-for-pound driver in the entire series. It's him and Dixon was 1A and 1B as far as I'm concerned. And Dixon, if anything, underperformed a bit last year by his lofty standards. Newgarden is that dude. He can win anywhere, on any track, on any day.
You are that
He's
guy.
that good.
Yeah,
There was that whole string of races in the summer, starting at the second Detroit Grand Prix, going through Road America. He could have easily won 3 in a row in the summer, and that could have put him over the top in the championship. Joseph Newgarden is about my age, right? And you wouldn't think that he is like this weather-beaten, grizzled veteran of the IndyCar series, but this is going to be his 11th season. He's done everything. He's won 2 titles. He's never been out of contention for a championship at Penske. The only thing he's missing now, and it's weird to say, that he is now the driver with the most accomplished resume that has not won the Indianapolis 500.
Yep.
Hasn't really come close either.
And that's
He's
the
the
thing.
guy to Borg Warner at 31 years old. What the fuck?
I was going to say, in the last time Penske actually looked like they were going to win a 500, they did win the 500, and Pagenaud used him as a fuel-saving tool.
Yeah, pretty much.
And
I mean,
he was their best driver in 2020 there, but got there mainly via pit strategy because you could not pass a damn thing in 2020 at the 500.
Indeed. I mean, King, what do you make of the rest of the team here? Because, I mean, there's going to be heightened expectations for McLaughlin going forward, definitely, especially with the downside of the team and the fact he's not a rookie anymore. And is it fair to have question marks about Power? Because he was ropey last year.
Well, Power's been ropey for, years. Go ahead, King.
I don't want to talk about... I don't acknowledge the existence of Will Power after Nashville last year.
It's certainly... I don't know. It's certainly, if I had to say that someone was in a hot seat at Penske, it would be Will Power, especially with all the young drivers coming in at the lower end teams that could be, expected to replace him in a couple of years' time. Where it's sort of, you have to prove your worth. And
he just got a contract extension.
Yeah.
He got a contract extension to race at Penske. Doesn't have to be in an IndyCar.
Yeah.
I don't. If he's going to race like he did last year, I don't want to see him in a Porsche 9RD.
I think the captain will be keeping a very close eye on Rinus VeeKay this year. Just throwing that
I think
out
everyone
there.
should keep an eye on Rinus VeeKay.
Yeah.
You know what would help Will Power is if he didn't start his season off like warmed over garbage, because I think the last time he won, it's been, 2018 he swept the month of May, and then the last 3 seasons he's gotten off to some wretched start. And don't get me wrong, he still won a race, he could have easily won more. But if he still aspires to win another series title, he can't start off like this. He can't blow hot and cold like this. And for Scott McLaughlin,
to extend to that effect, and this applies to Scotty too, they have to fix their 500 because it's worth too much. It's worth too many points. If you have a bad it's a testament to Joseph Newgarden's raw ability behind the wheel of a racing car. He's had 2 abysmal Indy 500s in a row and has been fighting for the championship at the final round. Not much of a fight, but the fact that he's even mathematically in contention when you're losing 2 races worth of points is impressive. Will Power clubbed the wall on the way into the 500 last year, scraped in by the skin of his teeth. They have to be better
at 2 cars in bum
at their event.
Yeah. They owned the place, and Penske had 2 cars in bump day last.
It's nice to win the Brickyard Grand Prix, but they don't call this Brickyard GP car now, do they?
No, they do not.
And Scotty McLaughlin.
Scott was great on ovals last year. It's strange for
his
Penske
500. His 500 didn't show how good he was because he owned gold with a penalty right in the death.
It's interesting.
Indeed.
How long does Penske have patience in the Scott McLaughlin project? Because if he has another tough season like this where he's fine but not to Penske standards, Scott's going to probably think, maybe I should give NASCAR a try. Maybe I should just keep chasing those supercars records. And I hate that.
It's going to be interesting because I feel like I said, he's not going to get the same leash in year 2. He was good at Penske last year. He wasn't great. He was still quite sloppy on the road and street courses. He was excellent at the ovals. I think oval-wise, he's dialed in.
It was a pleasant surprise.
But I think, it's normally the other way around, which is interesting. But hopefully down to 3 cars, more resources. Hopefully it gets the best out of him because I think the kid's talented. No doubt about that. But 14th is not going to cut it for long at Penske. Like he's had his rookie year. Year 2 needs to be better.
Ninth can't cut it for Power anymore because this is Will Power who let's not forget a couple years ago won this little race called the Indy 500 and was perennially a top championship contender until very recently. We know we're critical because we know he can be that much better than what he's shown lately.
Yeah. Exactly. And like Pagenaud was pushed out the door for less than what Power had last year.
I would say
that's something you've got to bear in mind.
Now that I've come back into the light.
Hello.
Yeah, like last year, the whole Nashville incident and the kind of resigned shrug that, by all accounts, Pagenaud's displeasure within the team. Would not surprise me if that was a big factor in him walking away from Penske, because by all accounts, Penske wanted to retain him. And normally you don't walk away from Roger Penske. He's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Very, very interesting dynamic indeed. One more team, and arguably the top dogs.
The new Death Star.
Definitely the top dogs last year. Yeah. Chip Ganassi Racing, everybody. To put it into perspective as to how good Chip Ganassi was last year, do you remember when Marcus Ericsson was a multi-race winning title contender last year?
Mother of God.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a thing. That was a thing that happened. Chip Ganassi Racing back with 4 full-time cars this year. Number 8, Marcus Ericsson. Yes, Ericsson, 6th in the championship last year. That was just a thing that happened. Number 9, Scott Dixon. Actually quite disappointing by his standards last year by only finishing 4th and winning just the one race.
Eternal.
Yeah. Alex Palou, reigning series champion. Still feels a little bit weird to say, but Alex Palou in the number 10 car, leading the way, and Jimmy in the 48 car. Jimmy Johnson is here, and he's here full time this time round. He will race the entire schedule this year. Isn't that nice? Still unconfirmed reports about Tony Kanaan in a 5th car, maybe running part-time. Definitely the 500. More on that as we get it. But Dixon spoke eloquently about 2021 and his struggles. He says he's doing what I call the Lewis Hamilton revenge tour for this year, saying, quote, "Sometimes it's just not your year. Whatever dice you roll, it doesn't work out, and we definitely had several times on strategy where it looked pretty straightforward what we were doing, and ultimately, whether a caution fell or whatever, it was the wrong thing to do. There's always a process. It's more about the process." Anyone getting some Joel Embiid vibes here, by the way? It's always about the rebound and the fight to get back there. No, really, where's the Joel Embiid vibes here?
Scott Dixon went to his hater's funeral just to make sure that the guy was dead.
I think losing sometimes gives you that little bit more fight to try and turn that around, and that definitely hasn't gone anywhere, that's for sure. Is the title fight going to be amongst this team? Because if it's anything like last year, it probably will be, because this team was incredible last year.
I'm chomping on the bit to say something here, because I have an email from the IndyCar series. I'm on their mailing list. This is for their Defy Everything campaign that I lampooned in the trial. And on the masthead, like the image on the top of the email, they have 4 people on the image. They have, of course, a reigning champion, Alex Palou. You have Joseph Newgarden, runner-up. You have Pato O'Ward. And you have Romain Grosjean. You know what's missing from that? Scott Dixon. Are we at the point where Scott Dixon is the most slept-on driver in the IndyCar series? Six-time series champion Scott Dixon, the most slept-on driver in IndyCar going into 2022?
Well,
how is Scott Dixon,
it's a weird,
arguably the greatest driver in their series? How is Scott Dixon an afterthought here? He's Scott Dixon.
I will say 2 words. Alex Palou. This guy was checks notes arguably the greatest driver in Indy 500 history, away from winning an Indy 500 in his 2nd attempt. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
He won the championship in his 1st year with Ganassi, beating Scott Dixon head-to-head. When is the last time that happened? Some guy named Dario was in the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dario. I was going to say, it's Dario, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, shit.
That doesn't happen.
And at that point in time, Scott Dixon was good, but he wasn't Scott Dixon yet.
Yeah, he wasn't Scott Dixon yet. Only a couple championships, only an Indy 500 ring on the finger. Just kind of a scrub compared to how he is now.
And we think we'd see him differently if he had more than just the one Indy 500 win.
Probably, but Indy 500 wins. As I said in last year's season review, he walked into the House of Pancakes and demanded waffles with some fried chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's not forget Jimmy Johnson. He probably isn't going to be a contender for champion, but the 500, that's going to be real interesting. Going to be scary.
Look, if Jimmy Johnson runs well at the Indianapolis 500, that's you've accomplished. That's the whole.
He's just here to have fun.
End game. That's the end game.
RJ, yeah. I don't think it's if. I don't think it's if he runs well. I think it's when.
Oh God!
Yeah,
you're that sure, King. You're that sure Johnson's going to bring it to the 500.
Yes,
well, this guy was pretty good at Indianapolis in a stock car, mind you.
Yeah,
a little bit of a different vibe, but 7 NASCAR championships. It's not too bad, is it?
Yeah.
I'm expecting better things this year from Johnson. Not only just from time to acclimatize to about as far as you could get away from what he was driving for his entire career, but also running ovals, which were always Johnson's bread and butter anyways.
Yeah. If he does well in the ovals, that's cash money. Everything else is a bonus. Marcus Ericsson was last year a fluke because those 2 wins were awesome. They were also a little bit fortuitous. And at the same time, I can't help but think that he has found something that we haven't seen in him since before he was in F1.
I think
just consistency. He was in the mix, and sometimes that alone will get you a couple of wins if shit happens around you. You've got to be in it to win it at the end of the day.
Including if you go slightly airborne.
You don't fluke finishing 6th in a championship in IndyCar anymore. It's too close for that now. Like, Ericsson was in there, in those top 10 finish positions almost every week. I have to applaud what he's done at Chip Ganassi Racing, because I don't think anyone expected this out of
His
Marcus
first manager was an Indy 500 winner in Kenny Brack. It was meant to be.
Yeah.
Because I think that this is what Marcus Ericsson's probably going to be for the rest of his IndyCar career, like the walking top 10 finish. That if you need a top 10 finish any given weekend, that is going to be Ericsson.
He's the floor. He's consistently the floor for CGR, which is to mean usually 6th or 7th on a bad day.
Yep.
When they did their technical reset,
day, you're gonna have a very good time.
Yeah, when they did their technical reset going into 2020, I don't think they ever could have expected the team across the board to be this good.
Yeah, they have 3 automatic contenders walking in. No other team, I'd argue, has more than 1 right now. Like, Chip Ganassi has 3. Ericsson was genuinely in title contention after Nashville last year. He was only about 50 points off the top. Like, this was not a fluke. He was genuinely this good. Yes, his wins are a little bit fortuitous, but you make your own luck in motorsport 9 times out of 10. That's how this sport goes. And yeah, 8, 9, or 10 could easily win this championship. And if Jimmy Johnson's a contender at the 500, everybody's eating good. It's like everybody wins if Jimmy Johnson is good at the 500.
That's right. It's fucking shit contenders, waffles, and a side of sauce.
No, it's that bone. Yes. Nah, bone in. Okay. You got that bone in chicken.
I prefer tenders myself. But before we get out of here, gentlemen, I've got a couple of questions. Who wins Rookie of the Year?
I'm on the Malukas train.
Yeah, just as a breakdown for all the listeners, rookies this year, well, we have 3 native rookies, Kirkwood, Malukas, and, well, Canadian Devlin Defrancesco. And foreign rookies, we have Illot. Calderon is, you could say, but, like, it'd be hard to win Rookie of the Year without competing.
It's hard for Romain Grosjean to do it.
Yeah.
And Kristen Lundgard. So those are our 6 rookies this year.
I'm all in on Malukas. I think he's got the best combination of talent coming in and a platform to actually perform.
This is going to be the safe pick, but I think to me it's Christian Lundgard because he's on a more established team. He has a better track record than Devlin Defrancesco, who is the only other driver who is on a top half team that's in the fight. If Kyle Kirkwood's talent alone can win him Rookie of the Year at AJ Foyt, oh, look out! But I'm not expecting that. My
Oh man, I am definitely like Foyt rebuild be damn, Kirkwood rookie of the year.
Oh wow! Oh,
King
just
lost
picked
his
a
mind.
Foyt to win
He's lost
something.
his mind.
Foyt, this is not a drill. I said Malukas during my Astray video in January. I'm going to stick with that. I think it's David Malukas. I really, really like that Dale Coyne fit. I really, really do. Who would you? How about a way too early 500 pick?
Oh man, last year I said Palou. I was wrong, but
so
was I really wrong at the end of the day?
Yes, you were, but only by a couple Carlings.
Good guess, though. Good guess. I've got a feeling that Colton Herta will finally put together a big 500 run.
Oh, Lord.
What do you reckon, guys?
I think in his first season at Rahal, it'll be Jack Harvey.
oh, wow.
You don't know Jack!
See,
Let's go!
see,
I love that.
there's no way Chevrolet can be this bad forever at the 500, and they won't be.
Bold assumption.
Bold.
My heart thinks that Joseph Newgarden finally comes off the old guy without a Borg Warner list. Again, a 31-year-old old guy without a Borg Warner. But my gut feeling is that it's going to be Rinus VeeKay winning the Indy 500.
Wow. Spin moves for days. I like that pick. Cam, what do you reckon?
I mentioned them as an Indy.
You're going to pick Pagenaud.
I mentioned them as an Indy 500 death lineup, and I stand by that. But I don't know.
You're picking Pagenaud. Just stop.
I think we might see a 5-time this year.
Really? Helio goes back to back.
It did before.
Okay. 4 very varied picks here. I like this. Okay, before we get at it, one more question. Your overall season champion will be...
lifting the Astor Cup in a year which is going to start with him after coming off a year which ended with him in F1 talks on a hot streak, going into a season where he is once again at the center of future F1 talks. The pound-for-pound best driver last season, the best front runner in IndyCar right now, going into his age 22 season, it's got to be Colton Herta.
Oh
boy. King, what do you reckon?
I know I was a bit harsh on them during that portion of the preview, but I think Pato gets the job done.
Oh, Pato. Cam. He's thinking about it.
Gears are turning. I just can't.
He wants to take Pagenaud again.
I can't. Stop it. Stop it. Because you're gonna influence my decision. No, I think raising the Astor Cup for the second year in succession, the guy who I knew was gold when I watched him win that Super Formula race in pissing conditions.
Yeah, he hasn't driven a wet race in IndyCar yet.
Oh, man, if we get a wet race in IndyCar, God help us all. I think Palou goes back-to-back as well.
It's weird that it's like Palou is reigning champion and was absolutely incredible last year, and it took 3 goes round before someone picked him to win the title. It's like we don't.
It's just that
really hard
deep
to win back-to-back.
It's stupidly hard, and I would say, looking at my list, I think there's 5 or 6 guys that could win this title, and it wouldn't shock anybody.
So I should know, since the introduction of the DW12, no driver has won the championship back-to-back.
First time for everything,
Bold.
King.
Are you guys just going to leave Joseph Newgarden there for me to lay up and take here? Because I just think Newgarden is just that good. He finds a way. He always does. Even if he's not spectacular in every race, he just racks up points like a machine. And Dixon's right there as well.
Yeah,
that's
true.
Pound for pound, 2 best guys in the series. And I want to pick one of them.
Dixon has dropped the lead anchor known as defending the championship.
That's his one critical flaw.
Terminally unable to defend
some things.
You know what it is? I'm going to go with new dad energy. Like, I think Mike Trout's going to hit for 400 this year in baseball if we get a season. I'm going to go with Joseph Newgarden here. I think Newgarden is just that good.
Pato has that energy. He stole his boss's kid. He's good.
It was a brilliant shot as well. If you haven't seen it during McLaren's car launch, Pato literally stole his boss's kid. It was beautiful. A beautiful shot.
In the biz, we know that is kidnapping.
I have no idea what you're talking about. We don't condone this here, but it was very funny.
And a kid that's going to be napping his way in the victory circle a lot this year. And if he strings together back-to-back titles, those super license points are on lock. If he wants
Indeed. I wanted to take Herta, but RJ got there first. But I think I can't begrudge a Newgarden pick. It's a safe pair of hands.
I wasn't going to go for the homer pick, and I don't even live in Tennessee anymore.
The temptation was there. IndyCar season starts this weekend in St. Petersburg. I cannot wait. As said, we are going to have 26 cars on that grid this weekend. It is going to be fantastic. I can't wait to sit down and watch it. I'm more excited about this than just about any other series in motorsport bar one, and we talk about that one next week. We take 2 wheels off the top. It's MotoGP, because they'll be setting up for their season opener in Qatar, and all of that will be in the shadow of Pedro Acosta, who we're all gushing about in Moto2 testing as we speak, because God help us all, he's coming. He's going to take us all. Anyway, IndyCar MotoGP season preview will be coming up next week. We'll be back next week as well for an IndyCar review from St. Petersburg as well. So until then, places you can find us one more time, youtube.com/motorsport101. Same on Facebook, Twitter @motorsport_101. Our person handles are on the screen right now, @Harris101HD, @Ryan Eric King, @RJ O'Connell, @CBuckley917, Instagram motorsport101pod, all of that, and much more, including written pieces and all that good stuff. Reviews from me as well from all of those races will be on the website, motorsport101.com as well. So until then, I can't wait for next week. Until then, I've been Dre Harrison. Thanks for the 300 shows, you guys. David Ryan and Garrett King, Cam Buckley and RJ O'Connell. Here's to the next 300. Until then, this go Sparta? No, sayonara. Take care.
Y'all.
Bye.
All hail the strawberry milk.
You know, if Helio Castroneves wins back-to-back this time, he can't top Paul Tracy from the broadcast booth this time.
But he can shout him out in victory lane.
We just did a season preview and no one picked Scott Dixon to win the title. We are all serious people.
Proving my
toasted by
if there isn't a show next week, just look for Emma Davies Dixon. She did it.